Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to English 358. I hope you had a good spring break. We're going to get started and dive right in. Here is the syllabus. You can see that we are here the week after spring break. Lecture number 10 happening now, and Kagan chapter 5, along with quote burgers. So I suppose you're wondering, what the heck is a quote burger? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, a quote burger is something to aid you in using quotes in your papers, right? So, the top bun introduces the quote. In his work, The Three Cultures, Jerome Kagan writes, yeah, so you introduce where the quote is coming from. Yeah, you might even talk more about the context of the quote. The meat of the quote burger is the quote itself. A change in the smallest detail of procedure often produces a distinctive outcome. And then the bottom bun is to summarize the quote and discuss its meaning. Right? So here Kagan refers to procedures in a study, whereas small changes may not usually make a significant difference in the daily tasks of our lives. Here, Kagan makes the point that research is unique in that it does. So you put that all together. In his work, The Three Cultures, Jerome Kagan writes, a change in the smallest detail of procedure often produces a distinctive outcome. Here, Kagan refers to procedures in a study, whereas small changes may not usually make a significant difference in the daily tasks of our lives. Here, Kagan makes the point that research is unique in that it does. And that's from page 143. All right. So, the quote burger, while pretty simple, right, is an effective way of using quotes in your paper. It gives you the ethos necessary to show that you've participated in the conversation, right? If you think about academia as a big parlor or receiving room, right? And you're at this parlor, and there are lots of fancy people there, right? And they're all sort of standing around in circles, yeah. uh, you as a new person coming into the parlor, right, are going to walk around to each of the circles. You're going to listen for a little while, right? Uh, and then when you find a circle that has something interesting for you to talk about, you might interject. You might listen, then make a point, right? Then somebody will make a counterpoint to that point. Then you have the conversation. When you're done, when you feel like all points are exhausted, you leave the circle, right? That's just like academia, right? You listen, that is, reading the works that are already happening in the field. You make a point, that's writing your first paper, right? Somebody responds to that paper, right? And then you have a conversation. That's your career, is a conversation back and forth with the people working in the field. Yeah. Then you retire, step back, somebody else proceeds, having benefited from your contribution to the conversation. Yeah? So your quote burger is your way of showing, I have read what's there, right? This is Jerome Kagan's The Three Cultures. I've read that, right? Here's something that it said. Here's what I think it means. Yeah? And when you do that, you're giving credit to what's come before you, right? And showing that you can build on all of the work that's happened before you came, right? So that's a quote burger. I would like 10 quote burgers on a Word document by Friday. That's the quote burgers that are due on Friday. All right. So pretty simple. Let me know if you have any questions, but it's pretty straightforward. I believe I put the quote burgers handout on Blackboard. If not, I will do that shortly. So, moving on, Kagan chapter 5, the humanities, right? So, as is my tradition, I won't tell you everything about the chapter, but I do want you to pay attention to two specific things, and that is the erosion of faith in the humanities. So I want you to pay attention to how we got to where we are in our view of what the humanities are, and then also note the function of humanistic scholarship. What is it there for? What does it do? Right? Why do we have people getting English degrees or history degrees? What's the point? All right. So pay attention to those specific features in Kagan chapter 5 this week. Your writing prompts for this week, I've got two for you. I want you to answer, what does it mean for something to be socially constructed? Give examples. And then, secondly, how can the humanities aid in the understanding of the two other academic cultures? Right? So we've got humanities, social sciences, natural sciences. How does the humanities aid in understanding of the social sciences and the natural sciences? Right? If you've read chapter 5, you shouldn't have any trouble answering either one of those questions. So yeah, that's really all there is for this week. Make sure you understand the quote burger. Make sure that you get those 10 done. Those can be from any source, right? You can pull them out of the three cultures. You can pull them out of any magazine or newspaper or book. I should show you triangulation too. So basically, if you think of a triangle, right? We'll make a triangle for you. All right, insert shapes. We have a triangle. So when we think of finding sources, right? We want to find sources for a paper that will bolster our argument, right? Find people in the conversation that we can put together that really create support for the thing that we're saying, right? And obviously, you should do some reading and come up with something to say in your paper that is accurate, right? Because you don't want to just say something erroneous and then have to find things to back it up. No, read first, then develop an opinion. Yeah. But when we're thinking about the research that we do, we have a few different kinds of sources, right? We've got things like books, right? We've got things like media, and we've got things like journal articles, right? So books have a really good thing about them, and that is that they're authoritative. It takes a long time for a book to be published. It looks at it has many different people look at it before it gets to your eyeballs, right? And it can generally be trusted as a reliable source of information, right? But there is one problem with books, and if we look at Kagan, we can see, yeah, what's the problem? First printed in 2009. Yeah. So 2009, right, is 10 years ago. Yeah? And things change over the course of 10 years. Yeah, so books are really good at being authoritative, but not great at being timely. Yeah. So how do we how do we combat that? Well, we can turn to journal articles. Journal articles take less time to be published, um, and so generally have more current information. Yeah. They're also very reliable because they have recently they undergo a lot of scrutiny, right? They will be peer reviewed. They'll be reviewed by other experts in the field to make sure that they're on level, right? But they're quickly reviewed, yeah, and not always by the best people, right? So, uh, while journal articles then are more reliable than a lot of sources you can look at, they're probably less reliable than books, but they're more timely, right? So, uh, when you look at a journal article, you can say, well, this evidence, especially if it's recently published, 2018, 2017, is very timely, right? But then you have media. Media right now is very good um, at being out there right away. Yeah, at being the first to report something, the first people out with a given story. And if you're looking for something that's an emerging trend, right, that's happening right now, media is a source that you're going to have to turn to probably, right? But it's the least authoritative of the three types of sources. Yeah? So when you have a media source, it really helps if you can back it up with a journal article or a book, right? Even if you're only backing up parts of the media story, right? It's really important to back that evidence up with something else because media is not terribly authoritative. Um, while they do their best to do some research, they often will go with a story that is confirmed by two sources. Yeah. So it's really important that when we use media in our academic writing, we use it with the knowledge that it may not be authoritative. All right. So if we think of it as a triangle, right, we've got books here, journal articles, media, right? So if you are going to make a claim in your paper, that is, you're going to say something is true, right? Then you should have 2/3 of this triangle. Yeah, that is, you want at least a media article and a journal article, or a media article and a book, or a journal article and a book that say the same thing that you're saying, right? And the reason you want that is you want some backup. Yeah, you don't want to just be out there with, I'm the first one to think about this. Yeah? If you look hard enough, usually you will find that somebody has made the claim that you're making or has made the connection that you're making. Yeah? So try to find backup. Yeah? Um, I would say you want at least 2/3 of the triangle. If you can find 3/3 of the triangle, I would say that's a very reliable claim to make. Yeah? And that you have lots of backup in the field to make that claim. So, as you're doing your quote burgers, I want you to pick a theme, right? And I want you to try to do them on the topic of that theme. Now, if you want to do it on the topic of your paper, that would be great because guess what? Those 10 quote burgers will come in handy when you're writing your paper. Yeah? When you're writing the body of your paper, chances are you're going to need some quotes, right? Especially in the literature review. So, do the quotes on things that you're doing research for your paper, And you will find that those come in handy when you're writing your paper. Yeah? So, that's all I have for you this week. Once again, the writing prompts are: what does it mean for something to be socially constructed? Give some examples. And how can the humanities aid in the understanding of the two other academic cultures? All right. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.